there's probably no better representation of how most altcoin holders feel right now than a Cardano chart zoomed out on the weekly. So close, but yet so far. Y'all know. I know how you feel. You all know exactly what I'm talking about. So close, but yet so far. It's the parabolic move. Right now, Cardano is such a good picture of it because it's at this massive bull market door resistance, the lower end of the resistance. And at the same time, and this is helpful for short-term anticipation going into this week, at the same time, just very big short-term resistance. What could a dip look like this week? What would a breakout look like? I want to kind of visualize this on the screen. We have some new risk data for ADA. Hit the subscribe and like on the way in. I want to start the video by just mentioning to you going into this week, it's a massive warning for everybody, for the bulls, a massive warning for the bears, because this can go one way or the other. Jerome Powell set to speak, I believe, on Wednesday. And so you know how weeks like this go. It can be very volatile. If something good happens, we might get a higher high for markets, right? A move to the upside. If sentiment is not having it, we might get a move to the downside. I'm going to show you what those moves could look like. I want to start by just looking at this video from 9 days ago. Check it out. But the 200-week moving average. This is a very key, for me at least, in my analysis, a very key area of resistance. And it's a bottom range of a resistance, meaning even if ADA closes the weekly candle above that 200-week moving average. Did that weekly candle close, by the way, above that 200-week moving average? Nope, it didn't. You can see this weekly wick of resistance below the red line, that 200-week, it didn't close. Right now, we have 1 day, 6 hours, and ADA has just been grappling with that area. Will be very interesting to see what happens on that weekly chart. But before we really dissect the analysis from a price perspective, I wanted to get a glimpse real quick of the risk model that Crypto Capital Venture Intelligence System is showing. And this is ADA, by the way, but if you're looking at this, the one thing I wanted to point out is what was going on back here prior to the last ADA bull run. I want to get an update on this chart because since high fear event that just happened, you can see it on the risk model over here, ADA kind of going down to around 31 on risk. Right now, and what I'm really paying attention to is the green line, the risk line. Right now, if we compare this to this move of last cycle, you can see we kind of had this swing low to around 35, and then we kind of made a little bit of a move out of that, and then we put in a higher low on both price and risk at that moment. The reason why I wanted to show that is because we could anticipate potentially something similar in terms of risk and price right now. But notice, we're in the 30s. This is a pre-bull market number in terms of Cardano risk, in my opinion. And if we go look at the chart, what we're comparing in that regard is this move here to this move here. So now we're going to really start dissecting what a higher low move could look like in a very similar way that played out last cycle. Before I do, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, itrustcapital. Go set up your crypto IRA if you don't already have one, especially ADA investors. If you're looking to not round trip the bull market again and you're like, I am going to take profit. I want to be in this game long term. I'm going to move some to Bitcoin. I'm going to move some to USD. I'm making macro trades. A crypto IRA with itrustcapital is just such a powerful tool. From gold and silver to crypto, we offer a wide selection of alternative assets for you to self-trade. That's the thing. You can self-trade within your IRA. And those trades, if you're making these macro moves, if you're motivated to not round trip things, once again, guess what? You can do it on your own. And those trades within your crypto IRA on the macro, if you're doing these macro trades, they're tax-free. I think it's important to note, iTrust never takes custody of your assets. You know, we've seen so many companies fail in this regard. We don't borrow or lend against client assets or leverage client assets for profit, and we don't let our custody providers do it either. So hit the link below, sign up with them. It's so incredibly easy, it's fast, and you can just get a glimpse of their fees here. No monthly or annual fees. It's just 1% crypto transaction fee to buy or sell. So imagine you're absolutely not going to round trip and you're making this macro take profit at the top of a bull market. A 1% buy or sell is very, very fair. So itrustcapital, thanks for sponsoring the video. Hit the link, get signed up with them below. Let's go over here to the weekly. So we're comparing these kind of two areas, and what I want to really make note of is when we had this move last cycle, right? Similar to this move, we had not broken the the bull market top into that parabolic move for ADA yet. This is where we are in my view. Once again, we're waiting on things like the Fed monetary policy pivot, the end of, or the slowing down at the very least of quantitative tightening. We're even on the short term waiting for Jerome Powell to speak this week. There's so much. The M2 money supply. Will these charts catch up to that, right? We've been evaluating that on the daily chart. But here's the deal. If you go look at the move last cycle that we just looked at on the crypto capital venture risk model, right back here, that entire move, that entire setup, whether it's price or risk, if we go to the daily and we look at it, what was happening from a technical analysis perspective? And I like taking risk data and technical analysis data and cycle data, time frame data, and just tracking these things. There's no guarantee it will play out exactly the same, but swing low to swing high. And if you want to get a sense of what I'm saying is, you can kind of picture this like that very high fear dip that we just had in the crypto markets, right? And for an ADA chart, that was right here. And you know, if we look at ADA last cycle when it's making this dip, this wasn't one of those high fear crazy environments. It was a big dip for sure. But from that dip, we exited and then we came back down to test a higher low Fibonacci. And so we talk about the short-term downside potentially if we fail at resistance, and then we'll look at the upside. But if we fail at resistance, it's simple. Swing low to the swing high resistance that we just seen for like the last week or so. We have an area to prepare for, and who knows? This could happen this week. I don't know what Jerome Powell will say. Then we're going to talk about the potential breakout because we're at the brink of a breakout. ADA is at the brink of a breakout, a really big one. Here we are at a higher low, 618, 60 cents. The 786, around 56 cents. I know you don't want to even think about it. ADA potentially falling back into this area of the 50s, but it's a higher low area for ADA right now. And again, to give you a reminder, right before the bull market break for ADA last cycle, we went from like 12 cents, 12 and a half cents, a 30% dip to like 8.5 cents, right? So a dip like that, a dip to the 50s, to higher low Fibonacci isn't even 30%. It's like, 17 to 22%. So that's a short-term support for ADA right now. Higher low short-term support. If this week gets dicey, crypto markets fall back down. What I want to mention now as we start exploring potential upside is we do have the 20-day about to cross above the 50, which is good to see. I want to make a note. This happened last cycle on a very similar move, 20-day above the 50. It didn't mean we were going to see support there. We'd want to look for support right there and continuation up. We obviously didn't get it, and we fell to the higher low Fibonacci. That's the downside scenario to prepare for right now. But if this support holds true, right, this 20, the 50, and ADA manages to close daily candles above this area around 60, let's call it 67 cents, right above where it is right now is, on the weekly, the 200-week moving average, right? Not even above. 200-week moving average now, the bottom of the bull market doors, is currently very slightly below ADA's price. So that 200-week moving average around 71 cents. And now that as we kind of get updates of the weekly candles, we can kind of adjust this red box because that lower end of the red box for me, the bottom of the doors, and it's a 200-week moving average. So let's see how ADA closes in the next 1 day, 6 hours. But you can start kind of noticing how this is becoming very critical for ADA. If ADA does manage to kind of break out, and by the way, I should say, if we go over here to the crypto capital venture system, we go to the bull bear arena and we bring up Cardano, bulls are not in full control, but bulls have an edge right now. And so when we're kind of trying to dissect all of this data, you can just see ADA and the bulls are kind of battling out right now on this indicator. And if the bulls kind of step in after this consolidation and make a break to the upside, this could lead into the macro bull market door break. But it's a lot of resistance for ADA. Even just above on the daily chart, besides the bull market doors where ADA is essentially at right now, the 200-day moving average is that next area of contention around 77 cents. So we have some areas I would like to see ADA break, and this will lead to some type of separation on the weekly, important separation, right? What I mean by that is we want to see a weekly candle not just close above the 200-week moving average, but really just very nice separation. So to get that, we will want to see ADA make a move to 77 cents. the 200-day moving average. And then lastly, before we get to the next major resistance of $1.25, I would say the only other major resistance is on the weekly, and that's the 20-week moving average right around 80 cents. So 80 cents, if we go to the daily, 80 cents, and right there's 80 cents, and then 77 cents. That is the range of resistance for ADA. Anything above the bull market doors, 77 cents to 80 cents is the area for ADA to break. If it manages to kind of stay above these moving averages, as well as the weekly 200-week moving average bull market doors, you can just see how ADA is just there is just a massive battle of the bulls and bears. That's the best way to put all of this, because this range that we're discussing right now is so small of a range of resistance for ADA. Now, we kind of have upside targets. We have downside targets. At the end of the day, I want to leave you with this. Consider everything else that's going on. Consider things like Jerome Powell speaking this week. What is he going to say? Consider things like what are traditional markets going to say? Consider things like what's the tariff news going to look like this week? More bearish news, maybe some deals being made, and all of a sudden, boom, these could be the catalyst for ADA to break this resistance area and start making its way back to the upper end of the bull market doors. I know $1.25 sounds bullish, but I just want to mention to you something. That is just the beginning of the parabolic move, similar to how the beginning of the parabolic move for ADA back here was around 37 cents. It went on to $3, right? So the beginning of the move is around $1.25 or so. So these are all the things I'm watching from a price perspective, everybody. I just wanted to share it with you on this Saturday. I hope you're having a good weekend so far. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, turn notifications on, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.